My name is Angelique, and I just graduated from college. I'm new to my job and still learning the ropes. One day on my day off, my best friend, who I've known since kindergarten, asked me with curiosity about my new job. We went to the same college but studied different subjects. She continued on to grad school, so she's really interested in what working life is like for me. You won't believe it, I said. We start each day with a morning run. They say it's to help build our stamina. What? Really? Everyone? She asked, surprised. Yeah, everyone up to their second year has to join. Those with 3 years or more can skip it if they want, but about half the company still does it. The others do things like crosswords or brain training exercises. Wow, interesting, she said, chuckling. But I would totally skip the exercise part. Our company has a unique motto: always be healthy, work hard, play hard, and live a long, active life. So for the first 30 minutes after we start work, we have time for physical and mental exercises. That's really unique, she replied. Though as someone who's not working yet, I probably shouldn't say anything. It sounds like you're still part of a club or group, like in school. It must be fun. I really do love the company, I admitted. But you're right, I do feel a bit tired. You're really observant, I said, a bit surprised by her sharp observation. The company atmosphere is mostly good, but there's one big problem: a very arrogant person stands in my way. Do you want to quit? My friend asked. Oh, I see. Just as I thought. You lack determination, said the woman who is my manager, complaining bitterly over the phone with a part-timer who hasn't shown up for a few days. Her loud, malicious voice seemed designed to push the other person into a corner. This manager, known as the Queen of Sighs, has the power to completely crush anyone's morale. The part-timer told me she was taking a break, but then she didn't show up for days and neglected her duties. Now she says she's quitting. How carefree, my manager said angrily. Just because she's part-time doesn't mean she can get away with this. I'll push her to the very end. Her words were more than just sarcastic, they were downright terrifying. The last time the part-timer came in, I noticed she was stiff and had tears in her eyes. I asked if she was okay, and she told me she had been scolded by the manager again. She was trembling as she spoke, and it must have taken a lot of courage for her to make that call to quit. I thought it would be better if the manager just let her go without any more harsh words, but instead, I found myself sighing. It's been about a month since I joined the company. The first week was just going around and learning from all the departments, but in the 3 weeks after that, I've seen similar situations twice. It's so inconvenient, the manager complained. She hardly does her work and just drags everyone down. All I'm doing is pointing that out. The manager, secretly referred to as the Empress by the employees, always had deep wrinkles between her eyebrows. She continued, it takes effort to replace her. It's only natural that she should have the consideration to find a replacement and finish the handover before she quits, right? The tension spread among the employees as she spoke, and everyone pretended to focus on their work, nodding without making eye contact. But then, she suddenly turned to me. Oh, do you have a problem? Caught off guard, I hesitated. Well, you receive your salary, so you should take responsibility for your work, right? She pressed. Ah, yes, I replied. There was no other answer to give. The manager knew this and had deliberately asked me. Do you think it's okay to act selfishly in the workplace? No, but selfishness is the enemy of work, right? She finished, leaving no room for disagreement. I was about to argue back, but before I could say anything, her loud voice cut me off. In the end, I wasn't allowed to speak up. I regret not being able to do anything for the part-timer who was crying, and I just let the manager have her way. That must be really stressful for you, my friend said. I'm sorry I keep complaining, I replied. I wanted to tell you about the good things at the company, but it turned into me just venting. It's okay, she reassured me. You can't keep things like that bottled up. It's not your fault. You can't argue back too much, or you'll be the next target. A manager who mixes up power and authority is the worst. Just be careful not to get on her bad side. Thanks, I said, grateful for her support. Then, I finally brought up what I really wanted to talk about, the trip I was planning. I think I can cover the cost with my savings from college and my first paycheck. I'm thinking of taking my grandparents to the resort you told me about before. Do you think they'll like it? This was the main issue I wanted to discuss. My friend knew a lot about traveling since she had done so with her family. She smiled and said, Of course, even your picky grandmother will love it. You can't go wrong. I was relieved. I really want to make it a good memory since we're doing it, I said. My grandparents raised me after my parents passed away when I was young, so I wanted to give something back to them. I had been saving money from part-time jobs during college to treat them to a relaxing stay at a luxury inn. With your savings and first salary, your grandparents will definitely be thrilled, my friend said with a smile. Seeing her smile, I felt more at ease. However, on Friday afternoon, just before the trip, I was called to the manager's desk. She looked unusually smug, wearing bright lipstick. Classify these by category and analyze them. They're documents to be used at the beginning of next week, she said, handing me a huge pile of thick binders. Huh? I was stunned. You want me to analyze all this by the end of the break? The binders were heavy and out of order. Just sorting and classifying them would take a whole day, and I still had to analyze them too. The manager, sensing my confusion, just looked at me with a victorious smile. I'm glad you understand my orders. You've been ignoring instructions recently, the manager said with unreasonable accusations. I decided to stand my ground. I hate to point this out, but it's Friday, and there are barely 2 hours left in the workday. It's simply impossible to finish these documents by the beginning of next week. I replied as calmly as I could. Ever since our part-time worker left, the manager, who we call the Empress, seemed to have picked me as her new target and had been intensifying her harassment. She excluded me from office memos, gave me wrong instructions, and then blamed me for misunderstanding. Now she was piling on an unmanageable amount of work that clashed with my long-awaited vacation. My objections didn't seem to bother the manager at all. You need these documents for the beginning of the week, right? It's fine if you come in over the weekend to finish them. And just so you know, these documents are confidential, so don't take them home, she said. Please wait a second. I tried to argue, but the manager cut me off. I have a meeting soon, and I'm leaving directly from here today, she said, leaving the pile of documents on my desk before walking out. The next day, as planned, I was on a trip with my grandparents. Seeing me stifle yawn after yawn, they worried, "Are you okay? Staying up all night and then going on a trip. Maybe we should have canceled." I'm fine, don't worry. I was really looking forward to this trip, I reassured them. Even though I had informed them in advance, it seemed like I had caused them some anxiety. But I told myself, no, this won't do. It's a special trip, so I have to make it enjoyable. I cheered myself up and turned to my grandparents with a smile. Look at this view. It's amazing. The sea is so beautiful. Don't worry about me. I worked a lot so I could enjoy delicious food, soak in the hot springs, and sleep soundly on a fluffy bed later. My silly attitude finally made my grandparents relax, and they started to enjoy the view with me. But a nightmare was waiting for me in the middle of all this fun. Did you finish the job I asked for? You didn't quit, did you? A familiar voice startled me while I was strolling alone in the inn after checking in. Manager? Why, out of all places, why here? I thought to myself. The manager snorted, as if hearing my inner thoughts. I ruined your weekend to teach you a lesson. I thought it was unlikely, but you ignored my instructions, didn't you? The manager's words clung to me like a curse, and I suddenly felt dizzy. So she had deliberately assigned me an unreasonable task just to ruin my vacation. The thought of this made me seethe with anger. But how did you know about my plans? I wondered. I knew the manager had sharp ears, but this was astonishing. You were chattering away during break time. Where are you going? When are you going? Oh, I'm so jealous. You were so pleased, being praised by everybody. It was hilarious. Eavesdropping? You're the one who was talking loudly. I shot back, realizing that my innocuous chats with colleagues had been carefully monitored. A chill ran down my spine. Besides, I'm surprised this inn is too good for you. Excuse me, I tilted my head in confusion. The manager gave her typical smug chuckle. Huff, you don't get it, do you? It's an eyesore to see commoners wandering around. Look, there's a rundown inn next door. That's more your style. I stared at her, anger bubbling up inside me. I don't understand what you mean. I know you find me an eyesore, but the rest is just insults and harassment, right? Just as I was about to lose my cool, a voice of support came from behind me. Is that what this is about? It was my grandfather, and my grandmother was with him. I had thought they were in their room drinking tea, but they were standing right behind me, having heard almost everything. This is, I stammered, trying to explain, but my grandfather gently interrupted. Nice to meet you. I'm Angelique's grandfather and have been her guardian for many years. Perhaps it's quicker to tell you that I'm the honorary chairman of the trading company that was discussing a deal with your company the other day. At those words, the manager's face turned pale. The honorary chairman of the industry, but your name is different from this employee's, she stammered. Yes, she goes by her maternal family name. Otherwise, she would be viewed differently as a member of a famous company's founding family, right? I don't want my precious granddaughter to have a tough time at the company where she works. I'm terribly sorry, I had no idea, the manager stuttered, her face growing even paler. Do you think ignorance excuses rudeness? What? Oh no. In contrast to my grandfather's calm demeanor, the manager was sweating profusely, frozen in place. My grandfather continued, "I'm afraid I'll have to ask you to relay a message to your company CEO. I'm not interested in doing business with a company that employs a manager like you," my grandfather said firmly. "Wait, please." The manager's voice trembled, but my grandfather continued without acknowledging her plea. "My granddaughter joined this company because it has a great motto: stay healthy, work hard, play hard, and live a long life. I used to think that having unique managers could help a company grow, but your behavior is harmful." He paused and then added, "If you disagree with what I'm saying, you can ignore it or try to spread bad rumors about me. But my granddaughter has been recording this entire conversation with her camera. Let's see whose side the world takes." With that, my grandfather turned and walked away. As he mentioned, I had been recording our trip to capture memories with my grandparents, and I had forgotten that the camera was still on during this confrontation. The manager, now trembling, tried to grab onto my grandfather but was quickly dismissed. "It's too late now," he said, and she collapsed to the floor in despair. "Wait, can't you do something to help?" She suddenly turned to me, pleading. "I refuse," I replied calmly. "You always tell me there's nothing a newbie like me can do." I couldn't resist giving her a taste of her own medicine with a sarcastic smile. I managed to keep my anger in check, even feeling a bit like an actress as I delivered my line. When the work week started, there was a commotion at the office. The executive who leads the running club stood tall in our department, addressing everyone. "Our company, Credis, prides itself on promoting a healthy lifestyle, working hard, playing well, and living a long life. We value hard work, but that doesn't mean forcing people to overwork, especially if it affects their physical and mental health. Executives who push unreasonable workloads onto their subordinates are only showing their lack of leadership skills." His voice echoed through the office. The manager, clearly shaken by being called out first thing in the morning, tried to respond calmly, though her clenched fists betrayed her emotions. But before she could speak, the executive presented evidence. "Here are the time cards from last Friday to today. 5 employees worked from Friday until Saturday morning, 3 people worked on their days off on Saturday and Sunday, and this morning, Angelique came in early." The manager looked increasingly confused and overwhelmed as she was confronted with this information. The manager looked confused and asked, "Oh, what does that mean?" The managing director prompted me to explain, so I said, "If I may, you instructed me to organize and analyze a huge amount of data by the start of the week. You even told me to work over the holidays if necessary. But it was too much for me to handle alone. Luckily, the executive happened to be nearby, so I consulted with others, and with help from various departments, we managed to finish the task just as you instructed. It took a lot of time and effort from everyone." Since members of the running club who had helped me were present at the executives' meeting, I took the chance to thank them again. "I only worked from Friday night to Saturday morning and then early this morning after returning from my trip, so I wasn't much help. But thank you so much for your support." When I bowed, they responded kindly with comments like, "We help each other out in times of trouble, and that's what running buddies are for." Finally, the manager seemed to understand what had happened, but she wasn't happy. "Crossing departments? I didn't authorize that," she said, trying to blame me for overstepping her authority. "I approved it," the managing director said. The manager froze in shock. The newbie in the running group, who always had a smile on her face, was in deep trouble. When I heard about the situation, I found out they were burdened with an unreasonable workload. It could have been ignored, but since it was important work for the company, I took charge and got everyone's cooperation. "I apologize for approving it after the fact," the managing director continued, then stared at the manager. "But what I can't forgive is assigning an impossible task to a hardworking employee just to harass them while they were trying to spend time with their grandparents." These were the strongest words I'd ever heard from the managing director, whose expression then softened a bit. He shared a personal story. "The other day, my grandchild visited me and made fried eggs. They had just learned how to cook, so the eggs were overcooked and even had eggshells in them, a real mess. But it was the first time my grandchild had cooked something with such dedication, and to me, it was the best meal ever." He continued, connecting his story to the situation. "Even though the kitchen was a complete mess from my grandchild's cooking, my wife was in high spirits all day. That's just how it is." When I told them the food was delicious, the proud smile on the young chef's face was the sweetest thing. The managing director's unexpected story about his grandchild's cooking brought tears to the employees' eyes as they remembered their own grandparents. One person recalled the taste of the rice porridge their grandma made when they were sick, and another remembered how their grandpa's "pain, go away" chant seemed to make them feel better. Even though I almost laughed at the managing director's touching stories, I also felt a lump in my throat, thinking about how a simple gift for grandparents could make such a big impact. The people who helped me that day told me, as I bowed, that if I felt like I was causing trouble, the best way to show respect was to enjoy my trip as much as possible. They encouraged me to go and have a great time. I love this company, all of you, and of course my job. That's why it's so frustrating to see part-time workers and employees like me being mistreated and having to quit because of unreasonable demands, I said, trying to speak up courageously. A warm round of applause erupted from the crowd, but the manager looked annoyed and confronted them. Do you think it's okay to speak like that? The managing director quickly stepped in and said, silence. If you want to stay with this company, you'll lose all your titles and privileges and be demoted to the same level as a new employee. From now on, Angelique, who joined a little before you, will be your senior. Be careful with your words. Hearing that the president had also approved the decision, the manager shook her head vigorously and yelled, no, I won't accept this. But there was no help for her. Instead, everyone's cold stares turned on her. If you don't like it, you're welcome to resign at any time. This marked the downfall of the manager known as the Empress. Afterward, she was demoted to a regular employee. The manager stuck around the company for a while, but she couldn't handle the tough treatment she was getting. One day, she just stopped coming in, and a few days later, we received her resignation letter in the mail. At that time, our company was featured on TV in a show called Morning Exercise, Bonds Beyond Titles. They even talked about me and my grandparents. The viewers loved our company's rule of not tolerating unfairness. Although the unfair manager stayed anonymous, everyone knew who she was. Rumor has it that she won't find another job in the same industry again. Meanwhile, our company was able to continue working with my grandfather's company without any issues. Working with relatives can be a bit awkward, but it also keeps me motivated. Plus, I've become more popular at work because of the famous showdown with the former manager. My best friend recently said, "Wow, you're so motivated. I want to work with you once I finish graduate school. I hope that happens too." I started saving up again because I want to travel with my grandparents without any worries this time. It'll take some time since I'm saving little by little, but I'm determined. Grandma and Grandpa, I'm going to continue to cherish our precious time together from now on.